Hi, and welcome back to Foundation for Emails. In this video, we're going to be working with adding images to your eBlast. So before I started recording, I put an images folder within my root folder. So this is my root folder that I'm working within. And I simply added a folder titled images, all lowercase. And in here, I've put in a couple of JPEGs. These images are off of Unsplash, but they have been sized for the web. If you're not sure how to size images for web and other digital devices, please check out my video that covers sizing and creating assets for the web. That will give you a little bit of an overview of why these need to be sized down. So these are just a couple of different images that I've already pre-prepared. So whenever you're coding this, you need to make sure that your images are stored in a folder within your root folder, as well as that these images have been sized correctly. Your maximum width typically for an eBlast is going to be 650 pixels wide. If you're trying to think about high definition devices, it would then be double that. So that would be 1300 pixels wide, but do not make your images any larger. Ideally, all images done in an eBlast are going to be very small size. We're talking in the kilobyte range, 100 to 200 kilobytes maximum. You do not want to have more than that because it's going to, if you have too much load time in your eBlast when you send out, you can be flagged as being a spammer because the email is too large to get through. Some companies automatically put filters on their emails. So if you're sending out to a corporate email account, if it's over 2 megabytes in size, that email may get filtered and they may never make it to your intended recipient. So please, please, please make sure that your images are sized before bringing them in. That being said, let's jump into our code and start bringing in some images. So once you have your column structure, I like to make this maybe first before you're building everything else. It's simply a matter of just placing an image just as you would any other time. So let's go ahead and jump into, let's go into this column 1 here. I'm going to eliminate the word column 1, and I'm going to just put in image, put in my source, and then I'm going to find my images folder. And let's look at that one, additional info.jpg. That looks good. So images, additional info.jpg, and then close that bracket. So that's my link to my additional. And there's that image right there. So it's important also to add alt text to any of your images. By default, Outlook doesn't like to load images when they come into an email client. So this is very important to add in. So if Outlook, you're sending to any Outlook recipient, those images are blocked. Even if you're a trusted recipient, the images sometimes are just blocked for loading reasons, and people have to click the button that says load images. Having a nice alt tag explaining what this image is can make people want to download the images, but also just explain what it is. So if someone is not loading those, if somebody is using a screen reader, it's hyper mega important to add alt tags to all of your images when you code them. So I'm just going to describe what's in the picture. Rack of clothing. If I was offering a sale, it could be sample of clothing that is 10% off. 10% off. That might be enough that, so if this doesn't load for whatever reason, then that's going to be what is seen to the user. There we go. Oops. Hang on, got that in the wrong spot. Let's go ahead and save that. There we go. There we go. Had a little tag in the wrong spot. So there it is. Rack of clothing, sample of clothing that is 10% off. So if this picture never loaded, I could read that as you saw when I had my broken. Actually, let's break that again so you can see what it looks like. Happy accident here as I'm recording. So if the image doesn't load, if it's blocked for whatever reason, rack of clothing, sample of clothing is 10% off. So it's important to have that. So if for whatever reason your viewer is not seeing the image, they're still getting the information that you are trying to convey with those images. So now that I've got this image placed here, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of styling to it because I want to show you how you can style up some of the images once they're placed in here. So the first thing I want to do, maybe I want to have my image centered into a big block. So I need to get rid of the second column here because I just want my image to take up that full block. And since my image is already styled to being 650 pixels wide, by default it's going to go that full width of this. It looks pretty nice, and you do have the default margins that come in here that you would have to take off of within your CSS. I'm not super concerned about that right now because I want to show you if I wanted to, say, make this image a little bit smaller. I need to add some of that. I will add that styling within here. So I'm going to first change the width and the height. I'm going to do it at 50% of the size. So width is going to be 325 pixels wide. And then the height is going to be 216 pixels. Let me save that. So that's half the size. And so now you can see that even though this is taking up it's one column here, it's just floating to the left. Well, I want to make that float to the center. So I need to give, there's a couple things I need to do to center it. So the first thing I need to do is add a class of float center. Class of float center. Then I need to set an alignment of center, so align, center. And then I'm going to take a center tag and wrap that around my image tag. So open up and give yourself some space. I'm going to write a center tag. And then that's going to close at the end of the image here. Go ahead and beautify this so it looks a little nicer. There we go. So the center tag is wrapped around that image tag. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then there you can see that that has centered my image within that box. So within that container, the image is now centered. And I could add more things to this. And that's centering an image within. So if you want to custom scale that, this is 50%. So if I'm thinking this is 100% on a high definition device, that would be how that would appear in the eBlast. You can also float an image to the right by simply adding a class of float right. So I'm going to float this over to the right instead of center. And then I would also need to eliminate some of this other centering code here. So I'm going to eliminate that align center and then also the center tag. And then save and refresh, and then you can see that floats my image to the right. So by default, your images are always going to be floated to the left. I think 9 times out of 10 people want their images centered, so you'd add that centering language, but you can also float it to the right by simply giving it a class of float right. So that's a way that you can align images within your containers in Foundations for emails. If you want to do something a little more interesting with your images, like having an image and text with it, you can play with those column classes. So I'm going to come down here to columns 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to, let's go ahead and put some images in there. So let's go to, let me find my column 1 here. In all my ugly code, you can see where this gets really fun to put in images. So let me go ahead and take that offset out of there because that's going to make things a little funny for me and I don't want it right now. I'm going to say large is going to be 4. So that way it's equal to the rest of these 4, 4, and 4. And let's go ahead and pop in an image here. Let me do promo 1.jpg. Save that. Pop in that image here. There we go. There's my image. That looks nice. And let's go into column 3 here. Save that. And then I've got that image there. So if we take away these borders, because you can start seeing where these like look really stupid once you've got that. Let me take that out. There we go. I was gonna get a little weird error. Take out this style tag and this style tag just to eliminate those borders. I'm gonna save that. And that looks pretty nice, having, like, if I put in some more interesting text here instead of just link to my site column 2, which is not very interesting at all to read, I could put like some promotional information goes here. And hey, now this becomes a lot more interesting to look at with some images and other things brought in. So that's how you work with images within Foundation for Emails. I know I rushed through this a little bit, so never forget your alt tags. Those are super important to bring in every time you have them, just in case your images don't load. And so thank you for watching this one, and I will see you on the next one.